Sometimes, in the comfort of ordinary life, a silence breaks through. The kind where you hear only one sound, a crack, like something inside you is breaking, not loudly, but permanently. He loved her, trusted her, built a future, believing he was happy. And she wasn't dressing for him. She wasn't getting ready to see her husband. Every "I love you" turned out not to be a vow, but a performance. He didn't scream. He didn't destroy everything in a fit of rage. He turned on the cameras. He waited. He watched. And when the truth became unbearably clear, he didn't rush into revenge. He built it, step by step, with precision, cold blood, and haunting beauty. Betrayal became his fuel, pain, his compass. And one day, when everything had fallen into place, came a moment that can never be forgotten. A moment where not just a marriage crumbles, but a man's former self too. This isn't about jealousy. It's about a truth that cuts like a knife, and how far someone can go when everything is taken from him, except his resolve. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. Nothing cut deeper than watching her get ready that evening. She slipped into delicate undergarments and smooth stockings, layering on makeup with the kind of care only routine and intention can create. Her hair was styled immaculately, and when she stepped out in a form-fitting dress I'd never seen before, paired with heels that seemed to lengthen her stride and change her posture, she looked like a stranger. A wave of emotion crashed over me, bitterness, envy, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. She wasn't dressing up for me. No, this was all for Miles Donovan, her employer. While I spent my days working tirelessly to build us a stable life, she was turning herself into a fantasy for another man. I couldn't understand it. Until recently, our relationship had felt solid. Jenna had always seemed loving and faithful. Never once had she given me a reason to suspect her devotion. We'd spent 20 years together, and the idea of betrayal had never once entered my mind, until a few weeks ago. It started at her company's annual dinner. Miles, the firm's managing partner, was far too engaged with Jenna. The way his eyes lingered on her, the way his smile curled when they danced, it unsettled something deep inside me. And the way he looked at me afterward, wearing a smirk like he'd claimed something of mine, made my stomach knot. I brought it up the next morning. Jenna dismissed it instantly, defending him like I'd just insulted someone sacred. Her reaction didn't soothe me. It only made things worse. Suddenly, all those late office nights, the canceled plans and vague explanations started painting a different picture. I couldn't ignore the alarm bells anymore. Jenna wasn't just any employee. She was his personal assistant. Miles Donovan was everything I never wanted to be. Loud, arrogant, always flaunting his money, sports cars, luxury watches, and a new wife who looked more like his daughter than a partner. He'd left his longtime spouse for a glamorous 30-year-old named Sienna. He'd always rubbed me the wrong way, but the night he mocked me in front of Jenna and our friends, that was the moment the resentment cemented itself. "So, Julian," he said with that infuriating smirk, "still messing around with nuts and bolts? Must be a real thrill working at Home Depot." Jenna laughed. That sound hurt more than his jab. Sure, my job wasn't glamorous, but I brought in over 200 grand a year. Our home was paid off. Our daughter went to college without a cent of debt. But in Miles's world, none of that mattered. Status meant flash, not substance. I walked out, seething. Jenna came after me, asking what was wrong. When I told her, she brushed it off with a soft voice. "Oh, baby, don't be like that. He's just joking around. You know how he is. He doesn't mean anything by it." I stayed. I wanted to believe her. But looking back now, I should have trusted that gnawing feeling. The clues were there. Men like Miles don't stop hunting, not when they've set their sights. Something told me Jenna was next. I wasn't going to sit on my hands and hope for the best. Within a few days, I put a plan together. I ordered professional-grade surveillance gear, 6 audio transmitters, 5 high-definition cameras. One of the cameras went into the smoke detector above our bed. Others were hidden throughout the house, strategically placed to give me full visual coverage. I planted more devices in the bathroom and living room. All feeds streamed to a secure hub in the attic that I could monitor from my phone. I even hid mics in her handbags, her car, and beside the landline in the kitchen. By the time I was finished, I had access to nearly every word she spoke and every move she made inside our home. Still, as I packed for my upcoming work trip, something didn't sit right in my gut. Jenna, as always, was affectionate. The night before I left, she made love to me with tenderness, whispering soft promises into my skin. Her eyes shimmered with emotion. "I love you more than anything," she said, fingertips tracing the lines of my face. "You're everything to me." And I said it back, meaning it, needing to believe it. That night felt real. There was warmth between us I had never doubted before. I hesitated, wondering if I was overreacting. Maybe I should tear down the setup. Maybe I was just imagining things. But I didn't. I left it all running and headed off for my 2-night trip. If anything was happening, this would be the window. We kissed goodbye. By evening, I was driving down the highway, a quiet 3-hour trip that left me alone with my thoughts. I replayed the past 6 months, searching every memory for signs I might have missed. Other than Miles's cocky behavior and my own rising suspicion, I didn't have much. I let out a bitter laugh. Maybe I was spiraling. Once I checked into the hotel, I dropped my bag on the bed and powered up my laptop. After sorting through a few work emails, I pulled up the live feed from the house. I didn't expect to see anything, just wanted to test the setup. I fast-forwarded a few hours, slowing the footage as Jenna entered our bedroom. She lay across the bed, phone to her ear. At first I was just watching her, appreciating her beauty. Then the words came, and everything unraveled. "Hey baby." "He's gone," she said, her tone soft, playful. "I've got the place to myself. Yeah, 2 full nights this time." She paused and let out a quiet giggle. "When can you come over? Will your wife notice? Oh my God, this is perfect. Can you stay the night?" "I want to wake up next to you. Of course I'm yours. What time?" "Okay, I can't wait." "I love you, baby." I stood frozen. Just an hour earlier, we had shared what I thought was one of the most passionate, intimate nights of our relationship. Those very words, "I love you," she had whispered over and over, like a promise. Now, I watched as she welcomed him into my home, into our bed. Who was this person I thought I loved? How could she look me in the eyes, swear she loved me, then betray me with such ease? Was he really coming over? I didn't have to wonder long. In the hour that followed, I watched Jenna get ready for him. She showered first, then she slipped into lingerie meant to provoke, not please. She curled her hair, applied makeup with care, and completed the look with a pair of heels, something she never wore for me. It felt like watching someone commit a crime in slow motion, and though every second cut deep, I couldn't tear my eyes away. I'd always known she had a sensual side, but seeing her bring it to life, so confidently, for someone else, was soul-crushing. A small part of me hoped he might not show. That hope shattered the moment the doorbell rang. Jenna opened the door, and there he was, Miles Donovan, grinning like he already owned the place. The camera caught it all, the way he pulled her in, the kiss he gave her like she belonged to him. I barely made it to the bathroom before my stomach gave out. "Damn, baby," Miles said, eyeing her up and down. "You look unreal. I can't wait to tear that off and keep you all night." I clenched my fists so hard they trembled. But what hurt most wasn't his words, it was what came next. Jenna beamed, took his hand, and led him straight into the bedroom we once called ours. I sat there, paralyzed, watching her undress him, revealing a chiseled body straight out of a fitness magazine. Rage, heartbreak, and disbelief churned in my chest. I hated him with everything I had, but even I couldn't deny he looked like something out of a fantasy. It made me sick all over again. I wanted to shut off the video, walk away, scream, do something. But I didn't. I stayed. For the next hour, I listened to every sound, every moan, every betrayal whispered between them. Then, afterward, they talked. Lying together, tangled in the sheets, Miles broke the silence. "So he's really out of town for 2 nights?" Jenna let out a relaxed breath. "Yeah, just the 2 of us. I've been dying to fall asleep next to you." Miles smiled softly. "I love this," he said. "Being with you." She nodded. "I love it too." He chuckled quietly. "Can't wait to have you all to myself while your husband's off busting his ass." Guy's got no idea. Jenna smirked, nudging him. "Be nice. He's a good man. I do love him." Miles raised an eyebrow. "Then why are you here? With me?" There was a pause. Then she spoke. "Because you're the most attractive man I've ever known, and the way you make me feel, the chemistry, it's overwhelming." She hesitated before adding, "We're both married. But somehow, this feels right, doesn't it?" Miles exhaled slowly. "You set me on fire in ways no one ever has. Not my wife, not anyone. You make me feel alive, Jenna." His words pierced deeper than anything else. That kind of connection, that kind of love, it was supposed to be mine. But it wasn't. Not anymore. I watched them kiss again, wrap themselves in stolen intimacy, whispering more lies to each other like they were the only 2 people in the world. Then he asked the question that finally broke me. "Does he satisfy you like I do?" Jenna was quiet for a moment. Then she said it. "He's an incredible lover. But no, not like you. What you do to me, I can't even describe it." That was it, the breaking point. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, hands trembling. Pain and fury surged through me like a tidal wave. I slammed the laptop shut, unable to take one more second. Hours passed, and I lay in bed wide awake, the weight of betrayal and heartbreak pressing down on me like a boulder. One truth had never been clearer. This wasn't going to end peacefully, and I wasn't going to be the only one left bleeding. When I finally returned home, everything looked just as I had left it. The house still radiated warmth and comfort, hiding the rot beneath. Jenna welcomed me with kisses, soft words, and that same familiar smile, as if nothing had happened, as if she wasn't tearing me apart inside, but nothing felt the same. Where there had once been love, now there was only disgust. Her touch made my skin crawl. Her lips felt cold. Still, I played along. I smiled. I embraced her. I pretended. Behind the mask, I was meticulous. Every clip, every audio file, I backed them all up. Multiple cloud accounts, encrypted, locked down tight. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was calculating. Over the next 2 weeks, I orchestrated every moment of our lives. I planned our time down to the minute. She had no space to breathe, let alone sneak away. I watched her closely while wearing the face of a doting husband. She started to squirm. I could see her growing agitated. Then one morning, as she drove to work, I caught the call. "When's he going out of town again?" a man's voice asked. "I'm not sure," she answered, "but I'll find out. It has to be soon, babe." That was all I needed to hear. Everything I suspected, everything I knew, was now confirmed. I had mapped out a fresh trip, short and strategic, just enough to gauge whether he'd fall into the same trap. Everything was lining up exactly as intended. That evening, as we curled up together on the couch, lost in a movie, Jenna turned to me with a casual air and asked, "Hey love, when's your next work trip?" A sharp pulse surged through my chest, but I kept my demeanor breezy, letting a playful smirk curl across my face. "Trying to enjoy a little peace while I'm away?" I teased. "Or maybe there's someone you only entertain when I'm not around?" I added with a chuckle, my eyes locked on hers, searching for the slightest crack. But she didn't even blink. "Come on, don't be ridiculous. I love having you here," she said, her voice soft. "I just hope you won't be leaving again soon." "Sadly, work's calling," I replied with a nonchalant shrug. "I've got an overnight meeting Tuesday. I'll be back the next day." She sighed theatrically and pouted. "I hate when you're gone. I miss you like mad." She slipped into my lap then, arms draping around my neck, her lips pressing into mine in a kiss that felt too perfect, too rehearsed. She kissed me like I was her everything, but I knew that same tenderness belonged to someone else too. It took every ounce of restraint not to shove her away. Instead, I stayed in character. The plan was nearly ready. Tuesday rolled around. I packed my things and gave her a goodbye kiss, fully aware it would be the last time we shared such intimacy. Our final night, our last embrace. She kissed me just like always, but for a split second, I wondered if she saw past the smile. Did she catch the sorrow hiding in my eyes? Something shifted in her face, barely noticeable, but if she suspected anything, she kept it to herself. Instead of hitting the highway, I steered straight toward the office. Staying late was routine for me, so my presence there didn't raise any red flags. At precisely 7:30 p.m., my hidden camera sent the alert. Miles had arrived. He strolled into my house like he owned the place, wrapped his arms around my wife, and kissed her as if she belonged to him. Showtime. I silenced the live feed, locked my phone in the drawer, no tracking, no trail. Quietly, I left the building, retrieved the compact electric bike from my trunk, and rolled out. It was built for stealth, fast, quiet, efficient. 30 miles per hour, 50 miles of range. I'd be a ghost on the road. With my hood pulled low, eyes scanning every alley and turn, I made my way back. 20 minutes later, I was in the backyard, slipping through the sliding glass door she hadn't even bothered to lock. Inside, every breath was heavy, ears attuned to the slightest sound. I could hear them upstairs. From the closet, I grabbed the aluminum bat I'd hidden earlier in the week. Then I reached behind the bedroom doorway, where a short-barreled rifle lay waiting, my insurance policy. Clutching the bat, I crept toward the bedroom. They were lost in their illusion, completely unaware. Candlelight flickered across the walls as I stepped into their moment. Jenna didn't even notice the shift in the air. Miles never saw the strike coming. The bat hit hard, sending him sprawling with a sickening thud. I dropped it and reached for the rifle, flipping on the lights. Jenna shrieked, stumbling backward, her skin drained of color. "Oh my God, this isn't happening. You were supposed to be gone." I kept my tone calm, flat. "Better question, what the hell is he doing in my bed?" Miles groaned, dazed, one hand cradling his head. He pushed himself up against the wall, blinking, panic dawning in his eyes. "Jesus, that hurt," he muttered. "What's wrong with you, man?" he barked. "You want to talk about wrong?" I snapped. "You sneak into my house, sleep with my wife, and now you want to play innocent?" His gaze flicked to the weapon, his throat tightening visibly. "What are you going to do?" he asked, voice trembling. I tilted my head, a cruel grin tugging at my lips. "Not feeling so tough now, are you?" Jenna was frozen in place, her mind clearly scrambling to catch up. Miles's breath came faster, every muscle tense. He was fully awake now. "I know everything," I said. "Every phone call, every sneaky little meeting, every time you thought I was too busy to catch on. And now you face the music." Miles's voice cracked. "If you do something stupid, you'll go to prison." I laughed coldly. "Then maybe we'll all go together. Sound fair?" Watching fear flicker through his eyes was almost satisfying. Jenna broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "Please, don't do this." "Why not?" I shot back. "You didn't seem concerned about consequences before. Why should I care now?" The truth? I had no intention of taking their lives, but they didn't need to know that. seeing them crumble beneath the weight of their betrayal, the fear, the guilt, the shame. That was the first moment in weeks I felt anything close to control. For once, the power was mine. Jenna wept without restraint, cocooned in blankets as though the layers might shield her from the truth crashing down around her. Her voice trembled, raw with fear. "Please, don't do this. I love you, I swear I do. Let's just talk. Put that down, please." I angled the rifle toward her, a smirk tugging at the corner of my lips, ice cold. "Save it. This is the drama you've been dying for, isn't it? Something wild to break the monotony of your boring little marriage. Whatever happens next, you brought it here." The weight of what was unfolding hung in the air, undeniable. They could see in my face just how far past the point of no return we were. Their only chance was talking me down. What they hadn't guessed was that I'd never planned on killing anyone. The rifle wasn't loaded with bullets. It was rigged with a brutal cocktail, part rock salt, the rest military-grade pepper extract, capsaicin concentrate. Not fatal, but the kind of agony no one forgets. I wasn't aiming for prison. I wanted scars of memory, not bodies. Miles, still dazed from the earlier blow, tried to rise, shaky and slow. I was already anticipating it. The second he lunged, leaving himself exposed, I fired. The blast cracked through the room, but his screams dwarfed the sound. He collapsed immediately, writhing, clawing at his face, gasping as though suffocating on fire. Pain overwhelmed him, raw and primal. Minutes crawled by before he could even sit upright, shuddering and clutching his sides. I stepped in, tapped his leg with my boot, and turned to Jenna. "Pay attention," I said. "Here's what's going to happen. I'll be gone in a few minutes. You're going to get him to a hospital, on your own. No 911, no cops. And when the doctors start pressing for details, you play dumb. Got it? Make up whatever lie you want, but leave me out of it. If either of you so much as mentions me, if my name even floats near the story, I release everything. Every message, every recording, every frame of footage. His wife will get a copy delivered personally. His firm's senior partners, too. And just to sweeten the deal, I built a site. 2 hours of your sleazy motel rendezvous will stream on loop. I stay invisible. Understood? Oh, and Miles? Don't even think about firing her. She's going to need that paycheck when she's signing divorce papers. If either of you gets clever, or if she refuses to sign, everything I've got goes public. That clear enough for you?" They didn't say a word. Jenna's face was drained of all color, streaked with tears. Miles barely moved, his breath ragged from the burn. "Good," I muttered. "Now go get him stitched up." I left without looking back, relocking the door behind me. The rifle and bat were tucked in the duffel slung across my shoulder. The night swallowed me as I stepped outside. At the river, I dumped the rifle first, then the bat, each at a different spot. The gloves came off last, discarded far apart. Back at the office, I loaded the motorcycle into the back of my SUV, then walked in like I'd never left. At 9 sharp, I chatted briefly with a couple of IT guys still pulling a late shift. As far as they were concerned, I'd been there the entire evening. If anything ever came up, it'd be my word against theirs. No evidence, no witnesses. Miles was rushed into surgery. The gash on his head ran 18 centimeters. They had to shave part of his scalp to close it. He was diagnosed with a concussion. His official report said he was just dropping off paperwork at Jenna's place and couldn't remember anything after that. Claimed he didn't see who hit him. He understood what silence cost, and what talking would cost even more. Jenna kept her story tight too. Said she heard a loud noise, stepped outside, and found Miles lying there, bleeding. She claimed she drove him to the hospital herself, afraid waiting for an ambulance might be too late. Neither explained why Miles had no clothes on, but they stuck to their version. Too bad for Miles. His wife didn't buy a single word. Whatever fallout was coming for him, it made my part look like mercy. By the next day, I'd wiped the place clean. Every bug, every hidden lens, gone. The recordings were all safely backed up to an encrypted cloud. The devices themselves were destroyed beyond recognition. Nothing left to find, nothing to follow. By 6 that evening, Jenna came through the front door. I was already there, sitting in the living room with a half-drunk bottle of whiskey on the table. She looked like a ghost, eyes red and swollen, her posture defeated. I'd never seen her look so broken. For a split second, pity flickered. Then she spoke. "Julian," she whispered, her voice cracked and barely holding. "I know what you saw was terrible, but it wasn't what it looked like. I wasn't in love with him." Her voice wavered. She stared into my eyes like she could will me to understand. "I know what I said hurt you. I know how it must have sounded. But you know me. After being close, I need that emotional connection. What I said, it wasn't real." Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "You were gone so much. I hated the silence. Miles, he was just there. He filled the space. And yeah, it got physical. But it wasn't love. It never meant anything. It was just comfort. Please, Julian, please believe me." I said nothing. She looked so raw, so desperate, and yet all I could hear was betrayal echoing behind every word. Her pleas felt like rehearsed lines, her sorrow like theater. I stared at her, stunned that she could still look me in the eye while twisting the knife. "Jenna," I began, my voice steady but edged with finality. "I've heard everything you've tried to explain. You claim those words of love were meant for me, but we both know that's a lie. They were his, not mine. This stops now. 20 years together, gone, destroyed by your choices, because you let him in, and now we're both left to face what's left behind. So, congratulations. You've carved a wound I'll carry for the rest of my life." Bitterness laced my words as I spoke. Her face crumpled, and the tears came. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't hesitate. "There is no we anymore. It's over. I'll never understand what made you do this, and I'll have to live without that answer. As for forgiveness, it's not even a possibility, but I'll keep my word. I won't say a word about your affair, not to Sabrina, not to your parents. That's yours to handle. But let me be clear, don't twist this around and paint me as the bad guy. If you try, I'll make sure the entire truth is known. The house goes up for sale this week. You'll have to find another place. You broke this. You're the one who's leaving. This isn't a negotiation. I'm telling you how it is. Let me know where to send the divorce paperwork. Sign it quietly, or both you and your lover will wish you had." She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. "He's not my boyfriend. I don't love him. Please, can't we come back from this? I've ruined everything. I know I've devastated you, but I still need you. I can't breathe without you. I'll do anything, anything, to fix this. Just don't walk away." I looked at her, already gone to me. If it had just been physical, maybe we could have worked through it. Counseling, a break, something. But that's not what happened. You gave him something sacred. You said things that were meant only for me. And in doing that, you tore us apart. You buried the love I had for you. It's gone, dead. No, I won't forgive. I won't forget. And once this divorce is finalized, you'll be out of my life for good." She cried for hours. By sunrise, her bags were packed, and she left. She moved back into her parents' house while we started the process of putting our home on the market. A few days later, the police came by, asking questions about Miles. I called a lawyer the second they showed up, and we shut it down fast. "My client has no statement unless you can provide evidence," my attorney told them. There was no proof, no charges, and my alibi was rock solid. They had to drop it. It went into the records as an attempted break-in. Jenna and her family wouldn't stop calling. They pleaded with me to reconsider. "She still loves you," they said. "It was one mistake. Please speak with her. Try counseling. Try something." I never answered. Let the phone ring each time. When they came to the door, I didn't open it. Eventually, I changed my number, cut off every connection. After that, I disappeared from their lives completely. Yes, the pain was immense. Each day without her was its own form of torment. But the image of her handing her heart to someone else, that pain never dulled. Jenna's life unraveled. At 42, she was alone in a small one-bedroom apartment, relying solely on her salary. The security she once depended on was gone. Worse, the truth eventually came out. Sabrina and her parents learned everything. They were furious, held her fully responsible. Her daughter saw her differently. Her parents, humiliated, carried the weight of quiet disappointment. Jenna had lost everything. And Miles? He vanished. At work, he avoided her as much as possible, only speaking when required. The consequences of their affair became a burden to him. Eventually, he removed her from his department. Though her pay stayed the same, her new role was a dull, administrative one. Her once respected position had been stripped away. Gossip followed her everywhere. People whispered. She became just another of Miles's short-lived flings, discarded and forgotten. The respect she once commanded vanished. With her career diminished, her marriage gone, her family distant, and no support left, Jenna fell into a deep depression. Night after night, she cried herself to sleep, consumed by guilt. Each morning only reminded her of what she'd destroyed. Sabrina tried to help. She offered kindness, a thread of hope, but the wounds were too deep. She watched her mother fall apart, barely eating, drinking too often, shrinking into someone unrecognizable. No matter how much Sabrina reached out, Jenna had stopped fighting. "Why bother?" she'd murmur. "Without Julian, none of it matters." In desperation, Sabrina reached out to me. She asked for guidance. I listened and told her I was truly sorry she had to witness her mother's decline. But I stayed firm. I would never forgive Jenna. I would never speak to her again. As for Miles, he wasn't thriving either. Sienna wasn't the forgiving type, and forgetting? Out of the question. The moment the truth surfaced, she flipped the script on him. Life under her roof became a slow, merciless punishment. He was exiled to a guest room, where he lived each day under her unrelenting control. Every mistake he made was catalogued and thrown back at him with surgical cruelty. She took full command of their dynamic, laying down new rules with no room for negotiation. Then came the parade of young lovers. One by one, they passed through, each more blatant than the last. She never left him, never even hinted at divorce. Instead, she let him witness it all, a front-row seat to her defiance. Staying married served a purpose. It polished his public image, and while he kept up appearances, footing every expense, Sienna thrived in her new independence. Miles still had his wealth, but the things that mattered most, trust, intimacy, connection, were gone. His betrayal had cost him dearly, more than he'd ever imagined. And though rage simmered beneath his surface, though he hated me with a depth I could feel, he was utterly helpless. It was too late. The war had ended, and I'd walked away the victor. That same year, I came terrifyingly close to dying. It started like any other night, just drinks with colleagues after work. But as I left the bar, things went south fast. A group of men closed in. No hesitation. They beat me like they were erasing a mistake. Fists, boots. It was brutal and calculated. If not for my co-workers who stepped in, I wouldn't be here now. By the time authorities arrived, the attackers had vanished into the night. I ended up in a hospital bed, ribs fractured, body stitched up, pain etched into every inch of me. 20 stitches, cracked bones, and a gut-level certainty about who was behind it. Miles. His hands weren't on me, but his signature was all over the act. I'd anticipated something like this, expected it even. So, when I finally recovered enough to move without wincing, I made a call. "Mr. Donovan, please," I told the woman who answered. "He's in a meeting at the moment. Would you like to leave a message?" "Yes. Tell him to meet me across the street at the French deli. Friday, 1 o'clock. Alone. I'm sorry, I don't think I can. Just write it down. Julian said so. He'll get it. When Friday came, I was already seated, tucked into a corner booth with a clear line of sight to the door. He arrived late. His face twisted the second he saw me. He paused, clearly weighing his options. But in the end, he approached. Sit, I said. He dragged the chair out and dropped into it, jaw tight, eyes full of fury. What do you want? I didn't react, just leaned forward, voice calm. I'm glad you came. Your guys gave it a good try, I'll give you that. But I'm still breathing, which means now it's my turn. I slid a folded note across the table. That's a web link. Don't bother trying to shut it down. It's hosted offshore, mirrored in multiple places. It's out of your reach. He opened it, brows knitting together. Watch it when you're back in your office, I told him. 2 full hours of footage. You're the headliner. Don't worry, I protected Jenna's identity. Her face is blurred. She's suffered enough because of this. This isn't about her. This is your mess to clean up. His fists clenched. You've already ruined me, he muttered. I'm not who I used to be. You've taken it all. That's why we're here, I replied evenly. To put a lid on it. You wrecked the best thing in my life. 20 years of marriage, obliterated. I walked away. And still, you came for me. Well, now it's my move. He stiffened. What do you want? 2 things, I said. And neither is up for debate. First, you stop. No more shadowing me, no threats, no reaching out to my family or Jenna. You kill whatever plans you've still got brewing. Second, you wire $1 million to this account by 9 p.m. Friday. Call it a settlement if you want. If I took this to court, we both know I'd walk away with more, so consider this a discount. His breath came out sharp, his chest rising with the weight of it. And if I go through with it? He asked. How do I know you won't post the video anyway? I held his gaze. You don't. You'll have to trust that I'm done, once you hold up your end. But hear this. If that money isn't there by the deadline, the site goes live. By Saturday, your wife, your kids, your clients, they'll all see the truth, every last second. You took everything from me, Miles, and if you walk away from this deal, I'll make sure you know exactly what it feels like to lose it all. That was the line. He crossed it. The funds showed up. The house went on the market. We divided what was left. Jenna walked away with enough to build a stable future. As long as she kept working, maybe found someone new. She stayed in her job, but things were never the same between her and Miles. Something between them had snapped, beyond repair. She never remarried, rarely even dated. The heartbreak lived in her bones, something she carried day to day. She never shook it. Time moved on, but the wound didn't heal. It deepened. She withdrew, little by little, until the bright, passionate woman I once knew became a shadow. Her laughter faded, her spirit dulled. What remained was a ghost, someone hollowed out by a love that had once meant everything. As she neared her 50th birthday, her health began to decline. The vibrant, confident woman I had once loved so fiercely had diminished into someone nearly unrecognizable. When the time came to scatter her ashes, it was only Sabrina who stood by, releasing them into the wind with quiet reverence. I remained at my job for a few more years before retreating into a slower, more peaceful life by the sea. Eventually, I remarried, a gentle-hearted woman with an easy laugh, someone who connected with me deeply, both emotionally and physically. She gave me nothing but tenderness, yet that all-consuming, singular kind of love never found its way back to me. That love had been Jenna, fierce, unforgettable, and ultimately ruinous. Through everything, Sabrina and I remained close. She became the last living link to that chapter of my life. We spoke every day, though she rarely mentioned her mother. Perhaps she understood, more than anyone else could, that the scars of the past had never truly healed. When word came of Jenna's death, it brought a strange mixture of mourning and release. It felt like the final page of a long-closed book had quietly turned, a sorrow I had carried far too long. And while I mourned the woman she once had been, I also felt something I hadn't expected, a quiet, long-awaited peace. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you. You gave it all, your time, your health, your family, to build something meaningful. And in return, you got a knife in the back from those you trusted most. You were the one who always played by the rules. Now your life is being divided up by your wife, your so-called friends, even your own children, all of whom bet on someone who talks prettier and dresses richer. But what if, at the bottom of betrayal, loneliness, and emptiness, you don't find revenge, but something far stronger? A new purpose, new allies, a new kind of strength. It won't be easy, but step by step you rebuild, not to punish, but to prove. You are not replaceable. And when those who once chose gold over integrity find themselves on their knees, you'll be standing. No rage, no performance, just higher. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. Derek King stood by the massive glass panes of the Imperial Grace Hotel's ballroom, quietly observing the grid of city lights glittering beneath him, a half-finished scotch resting in his hand. Behind him, the GlobeLink Logistics annual gala was in full swing, a dazzling sea of expensive dresses and bespoke suits, many of them costing more than some of his employees' monthly wages. Derek ran his branch of the company with unwavering dedication, always prioritizing fair wages and reliable benefits for his 300 workers spread across 3 states, often at the cost of his own paycheck. "Derek, darling, you're not exactly working the room." Nora's voice slipped into his thoughts, carrying that soft disapproval he knew all too well. She stood at his side, wrapped in a crimson Valentino that clung to her like a statement, bold, unapologetic. That dress had ignited one of their biggest fights in recent memory. Spending $4,000 for a single evening seemed absurd to him, but she'd framed it as an investment in their social capital. "I've been chatting with the Milwaukee folks," he said, as he turned to face her, "about rolling out the new automation systems." The chandelier overhead caught the shimmer in her carefully coiffed blonde waves. Even after 16 years of marriage, Nora was undeniably beautiful, though lately, that beauty felt more like a performance than something authentic. "No one here cares about your software," she sighed, her green eyes already scanning the crowd. Her expression shifted before he even followed her gaze. He didn't need to look to know who she'd found. Robert Williams stood at the center of attention, commanding the room not with music, but with charisma and money. He'd been catapulted into the CEO chair just 6 months earlier, thanks to a Harvard degree and a surname that opened more doors than a keycard. And Robert made sure no one ever forgot it. "He was just telling us about his yacht," Nora said with a gleam in her voice, already drifting toward him. 45 feet, custom-built in Monaco. You should join us. Maybe you'd pick up a few pointers." Derek watched as she slipped effortlessly into Robert's gravitational pull. The new CEO turned, welcoming her with the casual grace of someone used to admiration. At 45, Robert looked like he'd been sculpted for magazine covers. The silver hair, the sun-kissed skin, the relaxed confidence of a man untouched by hardship. "Your wife's got quite the presence, King." The voice came from Marcus Wheeler, Derek's longtime friend and now head of the East Coast Division. His pat on Derek's back was more show than support. "She fits right in with the power crowd," Marcus added. Derek's voice stayed level. She's always been good at adapting. He turned back just in time to see Robert leaning in, whispering something that made Nora's laughter ring out louder than necessary. "How's Sarah? Still in the college application chaos?" Derek asked, changing the subject. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Listen, Derek, maybe you should come over. Robert's been asking about your department's performance." Derek took another sip of his drink, slow and deliberate. "All the figures are in the report. We're up 12% in productivity, 8 in profit margins." Marcus hesitated. "It's not just numbers anymore. Robert's aiming for something bigger." Derek didn't waver. "I've seen the plan. It involves cutting corners, eliminating quality checks, and working our teams into the ground." A ripple of laughter broke out from the cluster around Robert. Derek caught a snatch of a story involving a sprawling Hamptons estate. Nora's voice soared above the rest. "Oh, Robert, you have to show us the yacht's master suite." That night, they returned home in separate vehicles. Nora had stayed behind, citing some extended conversation about a new charity, one hosted by Robert's inner circle naturally. Derek sat alone in his home office, reviewing forecasts when the family iPad pinged with a new message alert. He normally would have ignored it, but something, instinct, maybe, drew his eyes. A preview blinked on screen. Robert's name, followed by, "Missing you already. Beautiful. Can't wait for—" Derek's hands were steady as he unlocked the device. Nora hadn't logged out of her account again, or maybe she hadn't meant to. He scrolled. Message after message unraveled before him, a trail of betrayal stretching back months. "The beach house is open this weekend. Marcus won't be there. That dress. You're driving me wild in these meetings. Derek's dead weight at these events. You deserve someone who gets you." The front door clicked open downstairs. Heels tapped across the hardwood. Nora appeared in the office doorway, serene as ever. "You're still up?" she asked lightly, as if nothing had shifted. "It's late." "How long has it been?" Derek asked, voice even, lifting the iPad toward her. She froze for the briefest moment. Then her posture relaxed, and she offered a small, razor-edged smile. "Does it make a difference?" "It started when Robert took over, didn't it?" Derek pressed. "You used Marcus's place?" He rose to his feet slowly. "Were you ever going to tell me the truth?" Nora stepped further into the room, her perfume floating in behind her like luxury and lies. "Eventually," she said with a flick of indifference, "Robert's legal team is excellent. Once everything was settled, honestly, you should have seen this coming. You're a regional manager, Derek." She said it like a curse. "Operations? Let's be real. Robert's the future. He's ambitious, sophisticated, influential. Everything you're not." "Sophisticated," Derek repeated softly. "Ambitious." Her face didn't shift. No apology, no regret. "Robert knows what real success looks like." Derek's voice was barely audible. "Oh, you mean climbing the corporate ladder with your father's bank account and an MBA tailored for show? Don't be childish, darling. It's beneath you." Nora didn't even look up, too busy admiring her freshly polished nails. "I've already spoken to the girls. They're on board." The offhand remark hit harder than any deliberate slight. "You involved our daughters in this?" His voice trembled. "They're teenagers, Nora, not clueless little kids." "They understand what's best for them," she replied, her lips curling into a knowing smile. "Robert's helping them explore elite summer programs in Switzerland. Opportunities you could never dream of giving them." Derek sank back into his chair, voice dropping to a frigid murmur. "Leave, Nora. The next conversation we have will be through attorneys." "With pleasure." She pivoted toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Derek? Robert's lawyer will be in touch about the property. You'll need to be out before the end of the month. No reason for the girls to deal with unnecessary tension." It was poison, dripping steadily into his life, corrosive, slow, exposing fractures he hadn't dared to see. Even Marcus Wheeler, His best friend for 20 years had dodged every call for a week before finally agreeing to meet at their regular bar. "I should have come clean sooner," Marcus muttered, eyes fixed on his drink. "But Robert's the future of the company, Derek. Sarah and we've got our kids to think about. He's bringing a whole new direction." Derek's stare could have frozen fire. 2 decades of friendship, and you backed the man who was sleeping with my wife? What was your cut, Marcus? Letting him use your beach house part of the deal? Marcus flinched. "That's not how it happened. Nora told me you two were already falling apart." "We weren't." Derek stood, tossing a handful of bills onto the bar top. "Well, we sure as hell are now. Goodbye, Marcus. Enjoy the new company culture." Next came Catherine, his sister. They met at her favorite cafe, Say F, where she insisted on paying for his coffee under the guise of a heart-to-heart. She'd always been the family's diplomat, the steady hand in every crisis. But today, her calm voice grated like grit in an open wound. "Derek, try to see it from her side," she began, stirring her latte. Nora felt stuck. Robert gave her a glimpse of something bigger. Fundraisers, country clubs, real connections. I only helped her adjust a little. Showed her and the girls around. While she was cheating on me? Derek hadn't touched his coffee. "How long have you been playing tour guide, Kath?" She shifted in her seat, uncomfortable. "The girls loved it. You should see them at the club. They've made some really strong relationships." "Relationships?" Derek snapped. "Is that what betrayal is called these days?" He leaned in. "Does your husband know you helped dismantle my marriage so you could hobnob with the elite?" "That's not fair," she said, wincing. "I was thinking about the girl's future." "No, you were thinking about your own image," he said, rising to leave. "You were supposed to protect Elizabeth and Letitia, not help spin their mother's affair into a fairy tale." The final blow came at what he'd hoped would be a healing dinner with his daughters. He made their favorites. Elizabeth's go-to chicken parmesan, Letitia's creamy fettuccine alfredo, praying a familiar meal could bridge what words couldn't. But Letitia barely looked up from her phone, occasionally leaning toward Elizabeth to share a laugh at something he couldn't see. When he asked about school, Letitia finally met his gaze, her expression a chilling echo of Nora's practiced indifference. "Actually, Dad, we need to talk about that." She laid her phone down carefully. "Uncle Robert thinks Lancaster Prep would be a better fit. All his friends' kids go there. It's got way more prestige than Westfield." Derek repeated her words, quiet and sharp. "Uncle Robert?" "Yeah," she said without a trace of emotion. "He's more of a dad than you've ever been. He actually cares about our future. He's taking us to Paris over spring break. Did you know that? While you sit here clinging to your logistics job like it means something." "Letitia," Elizabeth whispered, hesitant. She'd always had a softer heart. "No, Em. He needs to hear it." Letitia leaned forward, her tone venomous with teenage certainty. "We want to stay with Mom and Robert. We're tired of being weighed down by you." Derek's response cut like a knife. "Does Robert tell you everything? Did he and your mother explain how this started? The lies? The secret weekends at Marcus's beach house?" "Mom said you'd try to turn us against them," Letitia snapped, pushing her chair back with a screech. "Come on, Elizabeth. Robert's driver is outside." Elizabeth hesitated, torn, glancing between her father and her sister. For a fleeting second, Derek thought she might stay, but then Letitia grabbed her arm and the moment slipped away. "Sorry, Dad," Elizabeth whispered as they left. Derek stayed at the table, the untouched food growing cold around him, the silence louder than ever. Somewhere in the house, a clock ticked, its rhythm dark and deliberate, like the slow countdown to detonation. The entire 42nd floor of a glossy downtown skyscraper belonged to Chung and Associates. Floor-to-ceiling windows displayed the sweeping cityscape, but Derek couldn't care less. He sat across a glass conference table from Teresa Chung, the formidable attorney acting on behalf of his estranged wife, Nora. Beside him, his own lawyer shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Let's be realistic, Mr. King. Chung's smile was perfectly sculpted, but her eyes gave away nothing. Your wife endured years of emotional abandonment while you pursued your ambitions. She raised your daughters, maintained appearances, and carried the weight of your absence. The court will find that compelling. Emotional abandonment? Derek's attorney, James Foster, snapped. She was involved in a prolonged affair. Purportedly, Chung replied with professional ease. And even if true, the context matters. Her infidelity may be interpreted as a reaction to Mr. King's chronic emotional absence, his lack of support. The girls' accounts will reinforce this. You're involving my daughters now? Derek's voice dropped, quiet but loaded. Elizabeth and Letitia are old enough to testify, she said, flipping through documents with clinical precision. They remember every forgotten recital, every vacation you ended early, every dinner interrupted by business calls. Derek's reply was cool, but pointed. I was paying for their elite schools and your client's upscale life. Will you also be presenting evidence of the affair, the messages, her weekends with Marcus Wheeler at his beach house? Chung's polished facade faltered for a fraction of a second. Let's stay professional, Mr. King. Your wife is proposing a very fair settlement. You keep your retirement savings. We forego alimony. All she's asking for is the house and primary custody? You call that generous? Derek leaned in, eyes like sharpened glass. She cheats on me, turns my kids against me, and now I'm supposed to thank her? Derek, Foster warned under his breath. Unfazed, Chung continued. Your daughters have already expressed their wish to remain with their mother. At their age, that holds weight. A lengthy legal battle will only drain your resources and hurt your daughters further. Sign the agreement, Mr. King. Walk away with some dignity intact. But the courtroom was worse. Nora sat beside Robert like a carefully staged photo shoot, both flawlessly dressed, effortlessly poised. Even the twins looked like props in a magazine spread. Elizabeth and Letitia wore coordinated cornflower blue dresses, clearly chosen to make them seem younger, more innocent. Letitia took the stand first. Her voice was steady, her tone rehearsed. Dad wasn't really there for us, she said, her wide eyes playing the part. He missed my dance recital because of work. Things changed when Mom and Robert came around. Robert listens. He actually spends time with us. Then Elizabeth testified, less polished, but her words cut just as deep. Dad was always kind of distant, she said, eyes fixed on the floor. Work was more important. Robert helps us plan our futures. He introduces us to people who can help. The judge's ruling came down fast, like it had already been decided. Derek lost the house he'd spent 15 years paying off. Custody went to Nora. Most of their shared assets did too, as Chung spun a persuasive narrative about protecting the girl's standard of living. Only one person stuck by him, Glenn Wynn, a fellow manager from TransGlobal's logistics wing. Glenn helped Derek find a small apartment and quietly passed him internal reports on Robert's dealings within the company. He's gutting the place, Glenn said over beers in a cheap dive bar far from their old haunts. Sending jobs overseas, cutting corners on safety, replacing veterans with temps. The board's eating it up because the numbers look good, for now. But it's a house of cards. Doesn't help me much, Derek muttered into his glass. No, Glenn admitted, but information is power, and I've got a whole digital vault of his recklessness. Hold on to it. Derek gave a slow nod, remembering the logistics system he once dreamed of building. The schematic still sat on his old laptop. You're right. It might be useful. His new apartment echoed with silence as he worked late into the night. 3 months post-divorce, he converted the spare bedroom into a workspace. Whiteboards lined the walls, a dual-monitor setup perched on a plain IKEA desk. On screen, the long-abandoned logistics system was coming to life again. Another encrypted file from Glenn arrived, more proof of Robert's quiet destruction at TransGlobal. Cut corners, canceled maintenance, Mass layoffs. The cracks were widening. A corporate cancer, Derek muttered, sliding the file into his growing digital dossier. Then a notification blinked in the corner of the screen. An Instagram update from Letitia. She'd tagged herself at Roberts Hampton's estate. The photo showed the twins stretched out on a yacht in designer bikinis, clinking champagne glasses. The caption read, "Living our best life with Dad 2.0. Blessed luxury life." Derek stared at the post, jaw tight, then turned back to his screen in silence and kept building. 16-year-olds sipping champagne on a yacht with their mother's hidden lover. Nothing could encapsulate the toxicity of Robert's world more than that image. Derek shut the browser tab quietly, choosing to let them face the consequences of their actions in their own time. A message from Catherine flashed on his phone. "Derek, please. The girls miss you. Robert's taking them to Monaco next week. Delete, block, done." His sister had chosen appearances over family, trading her loyalty for afternoon brunches at the club. Just then, the ancient coffee machine in his apartment let out its final sputter, gasping its last breath. Derek grabbed his jacket, slinging his laptop bag over his shoulder, and headed toward the all-night cafe a few blocks away. The night air sliced through him, cleansing the mental fog of endless coding and screen time. The collision took place right outside the cafe. Lost in thought about system structures, Derek didn't see the woman until they crashed, her coffee soaring through the air, papers scattering across the pavement like confetti. "I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, quickly kneeling to gather the mess. "I've got this terrible habit of reviewing notes while walking." As Derek bent to help collect the scattered papers, his eyes landed on complex diagrams filled with psychological models and organizational strategies for corporate settings. One flowchart in particular caught his attention. It depicted, down to the finest detail, the exact dysfunction he had witnessed at TransGlobal. "These are impressive," he remarked, studying the flowchart closely. "Organizational dynamics? This section here, it's almost identical to what happened when our new CEO took charge." She glanced up, adjusting her glasses, a sharp intelligence gleaming in her eyes. "Dr. Olivia Blake," she introduced herself. "I specialize in industrial psychology at State University. I'm researching how organizational structures influence behavior and productivity." She paused for a moment, studying him curiously. "Do you recognize these?" "Derek King. I used to manage regional operations at TransGlobal Logistics," he replied, handing her the scattered papers. "Your research on hierarchical resistance to change, this is exactly what I've encountered over the years. Companies fail when they forget that people are more than just resources." Inside the cafe, under harsh fluorescent lighting meant to mimic daytime, Derek found himself sharing his vision for a new type of logistics platform. Olivia pushed back on his ideas, asking pointed questions that challenged his assumptions and forced him to think deeper than he had anticipated. "The issue with most logistics software," she said, sketching a quick diagram on a napkin, "is that it treats people like code, but they're not. Resistance to change often means the system is overlooking basic psychological needs, things like autonomy and competence." "That's it," Derek agreed, opening his laptop to show her some of his initial designs. "Most platforms treat workers like interchangeable parts. I want to create software that adjusts to how people actually operate." "This is brilliant," Olivia murmured, scanning his wireframes. "But you're going to need someone who understands both psychology and technology." She thought for a moment. "I know just the person, Melissa Newman, top-tier software engineer. She left Silicon Valley because she was tired of building tools that ignored user experience." 2 days later, the three of them met at a quiet cafe near the university. Melissa, in her 40s, exuded the confidence of someone who had earned every bit of it. She dove into Derek's code with surgical precision. "The Valley's dead," she said, scribbling in her notebook. "Everyone's chasing the next viral trend, while the real business problems are being ignored." She pointed to his screen. "But this, This could disrupt the entire industry. You'll need solid architecture, though. I can pay, Derek offered. I'm not interested in a paycheck, Melissa replied, waving him off. I want equity, 20%, plus full control over the technical side. Olivia will handle the behavioral integration. You'll manage operations. I'll build a platform that will make TransGlobal's current system look like they're using smoke signals to ship goods. Deal, Derek said without hesitation. When can you start? Melissa was already diving in. Your foundation's solid, but the data flow? That's going to need a complete overhaul. Give me a week, and I'll have a prototype that'll make your ex-wife's golden boy CEO look like a caveman with a laptop, Olivia gently interjected. Speaking of TransGlobal, I've been looking through their public reports. Their efficiency is plummeting, fast. Derek opened his laptop. Exactly. Glenn's internal memos show they're cutting corners left and right. Safety, maintenance, quality, all getting slashed to boost short-term profits. Classic narcissistic leadership, Olivia remarked. They're focused on immediate gains, but they're ignoring long-term stability. Derek nodded. Our system's adaptability could win over their frustrated clients. Melissa was already back to work. Give me 2 months. I'll build something so advanced, TransGlobal will look like they're running their operations with rocks and sticks. Over the next 2 years, Derek's once quiet apartment transformed into the unofficial headquarters of Logitech. What had once been a spare room gradually evolved into a humming command center. Melissa set up her workstation beside his, their desks aligned like co-pilots in a mission. One wall became Olivia's domain, covered with psychological models and handwritten notes. Another transformed under Melissa's touch, covered with detailed schematics and complex lines of code. A seamless routine emerged. Mornings began with caffeine and deep market analysis. Afternoons flowed into coding sprints and prototype testing. The line between night and morning blurred often. They'd lose hours refining their software, surviving on greasy takeout and stubborn determination. One night, Olivia stood before the freshly mounted whiteboard, markers poised. Conventional logistics rely on hierarchical flow, she explained, drawing a loose structure. But humans form organic networks. Your platform should echo that dynamic. Melissa, already focused, was capturing every word in code. Adaptive routing, she muttered, a system that evolves based on real-time behavior. Their casual evening conversations began turning into full-blown weekend planning sessions. Olivia's psychological insights started shaping the product's very foundation, making it not just functional, but intuitive. Where Nora had once been a source of distraction, Olivia inspired Derek to dig deeper, to interrogate outdated beliefs about how technology should empower business. Meanwhile, Glenn kept feeding them insider updates on TransGlobal's unraveling standards. One alarming document detailed a major security lapse in their outsourced tech operations, the exact type of vulnerability their platform, Logitech, aimed to eliminate. A breakthrough opportunity came through one of Glenn's contacts at Regional Retail Solutions, a mid-sized chain growing disillusioned with TransGlobal's failures. After a critical shipment disaster nearly lost them a major partner, Sarah Chun, RRS's head of operations, finally agreed to hear them out. Their service has hit rock bottom, Sarah said during the meeting. Williams keeps making promises, but we get nothing but setbacks. We lost an entire shipment of perishables last week. Their tracking system completely collapsed. Derek stepped forward and introduced the Logitech prototype. We can reduce your logistics expenses by 40% in just 3 months, or the trial costs you nothing. Our system integrates directly into your workflow. No retraining, no interruptions. Sarah eyed him skeptically. TransGlobal promised 20% savings. We got chaos instead. They're patching outdated tech with duct tape, Derek replied. We built this from scratch for modern logistics. Give us 1 quarter. If we can't meet the target, you walk. 2 months in, RRS had already cut costs by 35%. By month 3, they exceeded the 40% mark. But more surprising was the shift in morale. Employee satisfaction scores soared. Sarah inked the full contract, shaking her head in amazement. This completely shifts the game. How did you pull this off? Derek's mind flashed to the endless workdays, Olivia's strategic intuition, and Melissa's elegant code. We didn't just build software, we built it around people. That early victory opened the floodgates. More companies followed, each rollout smoother than the last. Derek carefully assembled a team that matched their obsessive commitment to excellence. Olivia became more than an advisor. She was there through every late-night sprint, every brainstorm, every coffee run, offering focus, warmth, and razor-sharp thinking. Where Nora had demanded center stage, Olivia brought presence and substance. After one particularly strong pitch, Melissa caught Derek alone in the kitchen. "You do realize she won't wait around forever," she said, leaning against the counter. He looked up from pouring his coffee. "Who?" "Don't be dense," she said. "Olivia, I see the way you look at her when you think no one's watching." Derek didn't respond. "I know Nora left you second-guessing everything," Melissa added. "But Olivia sees you for who you really are. She's not here because of what you can offer. She's here for you." "We're just colleagues," he said automatically. "Sure, and colleagues always spend their weekends buried in data and laughing over takeout," she teased. "Just don't wait too long. Some things don't last, no matter how good they are." 5 years after the divorce, Logitech Solutions had become a major force. Many of the biggest names in retail and manufacturing, including former TransGlobal clients, were now on board. Derek sat in their sleek downtown office, skimming acquisition reports. One entry stood out. Marcus Wheeler had just lost his top client due to TransGlobal's declining performance. The irony was delicious. That same beach house where Derek's marriage had unraveled, probably where Marcus was now scrambling to save face. His phone buzzed. Catherine's name lit up the screen. "Derek, please call me." "I didn't see what Nora really was. The girls miss you. We should be a family." He typed back a brief reply. "Clarity's easier when you're not losing. Please don't reach out again." A soft knock broke his concentration. Olivia entered, coffee in hand, papers stacked neatly under her arm. "The new UI test results are back. 98% satisfaction. We overshot our own projections." He accepted the cup, their fingers brushing briefly. "Your behavioral insights changed everything." "You already had a brilliant system," she said, settling into the seat beside him. "I just helped it make sense to people." She hesitated. "I saw Catherine's message." Derek nodded slowly. "Some habits are hard to break. Success often forces individuals to re-examine the choices they've made along the way. Has it made you reconsider yours?" Derek locked eyes with Olivia, a steady resolve in his gaze. "Every decision I've made since the divorce has led me to this place," he stated. "I wouldn't change a single one." Once again, they were working late into the night, engrossed in the latest details for their upcoming account rollouts. The office was silent, long emptied of staff, with only the sparkling city lights visible from the windows. "Move in with me," Derek said, his voice quiet but resolute, his focus on Olivia as she worked through system diagrams. "You're practically already there. Late nights, weekends. Why not make it official?" Olivia paused, lifting her gaze to meet his, considering his words. "Are you sure? We haven't really discussed—" "I am sure," Derek interrupted gently, his tone calm. "You've never tried to change who I am. You challenge me to grow, but you accept me as I am. That means more than any club membership or material possession could ever mean." Her expression softened into a warm, affectionate smile. "Well then, yes, but we're upgrading. Your place is more like a lab than a home." "It's 93% white," Derek replied, a smirk tugging at his lips as he drew her into an embrace. Melissa did the math. The next morning, Sunlight poured into the office as they sifted through contracts for their new clients. Derek felt a deep sense of contentment, one he hadn't experienced in years. Amidst the spreadsheets and strategies on his desk, a framed photograph from a tech conference caught his eye. He, Olivia, and Melissa, all smiling. Genuine smiles, hard-won success, relationships built on respect, not superficial connections. That afternoon, Glenn's latest update arrived in his inbox. TransGlobal's stock had dropped once more, down 12%. Robert's aggressive cost-cutting methods were falling apart quickly, and shareholders were growing restless. A few board members had already made discreet inquiries about Logitech's services. Derek filed the report with quiet satisfaction. The foundation they had built was solid, and their momentum was growing. This was no longer about revenge. It was about creating something more resilient than what he'd lost. Watching Robert Williams struggle, inching closer to collapse with every client they secured, was simply an added bonus. 8 years after a divorce that had left him devastated, Derek King stood in the Logitech executive suite, observing the digital ticker that flashed red with each passing second. Another 12% drop in TransGlobal's stock value, half of it gone in just 6 months. Robert's so-called modernization plan had imploded. Glenn's weekly security briefing was open before him, detailing TransGlobal's steady downfall, overstretched maintenance schedules, veteran employees replaced by underqualified contractors, and an increasing disregard for safety and quality in the pursuit of rapid profits. The empire Robert had hollowed out for short-term gains was now crumbling under its neglected foundation. "Mr. King," came his assistant's voice through the speaker. "Marcus Wheeler has called 3 times. He says it's urgent. Something about the Johnson manufacturing account." "I'm sure it is," Derek replied coolly. That account represented nearly a third of TransGlobal's East Coast revenue, a territory Marcus had fiercely guarded during the divorce. Just then, Melissa stormed into the room, her eyes alight with excitement, a tablet held high. "Johnson signed with us, full package, no negotiations." "They're severing ties with TransGlobal entirely?" "Yup," Melissa replied, her grin wide. "And there's more." She tapped the screen. 5 more major clients are reconsidering their contracts. Robert's penny-pinching finally pushed them too far. 3 shipments were botched last week, 2 serious safety breaches, and their automation system is in shambles. A 90% error rate. Olivia entered next, carrying a thick report. After 6 years of partnership, they had perfected the art of balancing work and personal life. At the office, she was Dr. Blake, the chief research officer at Logitech. At home, she was simply Olivia, the woman who helped him build something grounded in purpose, not resentment. "My team finished the turnover analysis," she announced, placing the report on his desk. 80% of their experienced staff has walked in the last 3 years. Robert replaced them with temporary workers at a third of the pay. "How's that working out for them?" Derek asked. "They're less efficient than when everything was done manually," Olivia answered dryly. "But that's not even the best part. Check their social media." Derek opened his laptop and began scrolling through the usual accounts. Nora's Instagram had undergone a complete transformation. Gone were the luxury vacations and shopping sprees, replaced by moody sunsets and self-help quotes. True wealth lies within. Sometimes the storms carry us to where we belong. "How poetic," Olivia remarked with a smile. "Funny how spiritual people get when their credit cards stop working." A notification popped up. Letitia's latest influencer post. His eldest daughter was now endorsing a questionable detox tea. It had amassed a grand total of 12 likes. Not exactly the viral fame she'd enjoyed when Robert's wealth was funding the lifestyle. Elizabeth's LinkedIn was equally grim, an awkward resume filled with vague buzzwords and thinly veiled desperation. His younger daughter had at least crossed the finish line of college, but the dream of her gliding into a top-tier position through Robert's connections had long since faded. Her career history had devolved into a sequence of increasingly unimpressive roles, each one shorter and more unstable than the last. While combing through the latest financial summaries, Melissa observed that the trust fund was still mostly entangled in TransGlobal stock, now worth little more than discarded paper. Robert, she knew, had been quietly offloading his personal holdings for months. The vermin always know when the vessel is doomed. Derek's phone buzzed again. Another message from Catherine. Her attempts to rebuild bridges had grown more frequent, almost perfectly timed with each nosedive in TransGlobal's stock value. "Derek, please," her voicemail pleaded. "The girls need you. Everything Robert promised was a lie. The trust fund, their future, none of it had been real. You're still their father." Derek deleted the message without hesitation. Spread across his desk was another report, this one sparking his interest. Logan Financial Group, a major investor in TransGlobal, was now expressing interest in Logitech's services. "Get the meeting on the books," he told Melissa, "and have legal begin drafting the acquisition documents. When TransGlobal goes under, I want us first in line for what's left." Melissa, renowned for her impeccable execution, nodded. "Glenn forwarded the complete audit," she added. "It's uglier than we thought. Robert's been cooking the books for years." "Send it all to the SEC," Derek instructed. "Anonymously. Use our usual backdoor channels. If this ship sinks, let's make sure it doesn't get salvaged." Rain lashed the glass facade of Logitech's offices that bleak Tuesday morning. Derek sifted through the quarterly projections as Olivia focused on metrics from their newest UI rollout. Their shared work rhythm, comfortable, efficient, was broken by an urgent call from his assistant. "Mr. King, Nora Whitman is here. She brought your daughters." Derek turned to Olivia, who met his eyes with quiet recognition. They had often speculated that this moment would come, the inevitable fallout of Robert's unraveling. "Send them in." His voice gave nothing away. They walked in like faded versions of their former selves. Nora's once luxurious wardrobe, likely remnants from her affair-driven heyday, now showed subtle signs of wear. The twins, now 24, no longer carried the polished veneer of curated social media lives. Letitia's expertly applied makeup couldn't hide her nerves, while Elizabeth's attempt at a business casual look came off more like a borrowed identity than authentic ambition. "Derek," Nora said, aiming for old charm but landing short. "You look successful." "8 years will do that," he said, not bothering to rise. Olivia stayed silent at his side. "What brings you here?" "Daddy," Letitia began, her voice trembling with forced emotion. The fragility she tried to display felt rehearsed, immature. "We're not who we were," she insisted. "We've changed. We miss you." "Robert lied," Elizabeth added, her voice unsure, weighed down by guilt. "The future he promised us, it was all smoke and mirrors." "We have nothing left," Nora cut in. "The house is in foreclosure. The creditors are relentless. We're out of options." Derek's response was cold steel. "Oh? Like the support I got during the divorce? Or your glowing testimony about how emotionally unavailable I was?" "We were just kids," Elizabeth whispered. "We didn't get it. We thought the money was everything. And now that it's all gone, suddenly family matters?" Olivia's calm voice cracked like a whip. The reaction was immediate. Letitia stepped forward. "Uncle Robert manipulated everything. He twisted our view." "No," Derek said sharply, his interruption final. "Robert didn't force your choices. You picked the easier path. You put yachts and Paris vacations ahead of your father's love, and you made peace with that." Tears streamed down Letitia's face. "We're not the same anymore. Please, Daddy, we need you." "You need me?" Derek rose deliberately, his presence commanding now. 8 years ago, you taught me something important, about loyalty and how cheaply mine was valued. Today, I'm teaching you something in return, about consequences and respect." He pressed a button on the intercom. "Security, Escort our visitors out. Derek, please. Nora's voice cracked, all remnants of pride stripped away. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my concern, he replied, turning toward the rain-streaked skyline. I'd suggest trying hourly work. Character tends to grow better when planted in humble soil. As they were led out, Derek remained still, staring into the storm. Olivia's hand gently closed over his, a quiet gesture of solidarity. You know the irony? He said after a moment. I spent years trying to give them everything, the elite schools, the tutors, the idyllic summers. And now, Olivia replied, they'll finally understand the truth, that real success is earned, not handed down. They'll be better for it, Derek said, even if it takes them a while to see it. He turned from the window, letting his gaze settle on the empire he had built with his own hands. Derek's CEO plaque sat proudly next to Olivia's framed achievements, published research papers and patents they had jointly filed. Their workspace was a symbol of something far beyond personal success. It represented a partnership built on deep mutual respect and trust. Board meeting at 2, Derek said, glancing at his digital calendar. We need to review the Logitech Foundation. Olivia met his gaze, a subtle smile forming as she understood exactly what he was thinking. Scholarships for students raised by single parents? She asked. Derek nodded, tapping on his tablet to bring up a proposal. Especially in tech, we need to uplift those who understand what it means to persevere. The days and weeks that followed became a whirlwind of justice and victory. TransGlobal crumbled under the weight of its debts, its stock value plunging to zero. Logitech seized the opportunity, acquiring its assets for a fraction of their worth. Glenwyn, Derek's one true friend from his early career, was appointed as regional director. News began to spread about those left behind in TransGlobal's ruin. Elizabeth, once a corporate climber, found herself folding sweaters at a retail store, discovering humility in the process. Letitia's once thriving social media empire collapsed, and she was forced to work as a waitress to make ends meet. Nora's life of luxury evaporated, and she found herself behind a receptionist desk at a small firm. Robert Williams, the polished Harvard MBA who had enticed Derek's family with promises of riches, was now under investigation by the SEC, facing multiple lawsuits as angry shareholders demanded accountability. His cushy exit package vanished alongside the company's collapsing stock. Meanwhile, Derek and Olivia focused on planning their wedding, one that would be intimate and meaningful, far from the hollow grandeur of high society. No yachts, no country clubs, just genuine relationships and authentic joy. One evening, as they sifted through scholarship applications, Olivia paused and looked up. Maybe the best revenge, she said thoughtfully, is building something better than what was taken from us. Derek reflected on the life they had crafted together, the business reshaping its industry, the foundation lifting others up. He realized it had never been about revenge at all. It was about proving wrong every shallow assumption they had once faced. Their story was far from over. It was being written with every decision they made, every outcome that followed. While Derek's former family grappled with the hard lessons of accountability, he and Olivia dedicated themselves to growing their scholarship program. Each time a recipient succeeded, it felt like a validation, not just of their mission, but of their principles. True justice didn't come in dramatic showdowns, but in quiet, meaningful moments. Nora brewing her own coffee instead of barking commands, Letitia discovering that likes and followers couldn't pay the rent, and Elizabeth realizing that true success came from within, not external accolades. Derek and Olivia didn't celebrate their achievements with extravagant purchases. Instead, they reinvested in their foundation, expanding its reach. They turned their pain into hope for others, demonstrating that real success is measured not by wealth, but by integrity. Their true victory wasn't watching those who had betrayed him fall. It was rising from the rubble and creating something lasting. The Logitech Foundation would endure, its influence far outlasting the betrayal that had once sparked it. A decade later. Epilogue. 10 years after the rain-soaked afternoon in his office, Derek King stood at the newly expanded Logitech headquarters, now occupying the very tower that once belonged to TransGlobal. The irony wasn't lost on him, but it was the company's growth that truly mattered. It had far surpassed his boldest predictions, revolutionizing logistics and setting a new global benchmark for supply chain systems. His office walls were lined with photographs, each one telling the story of the past decade. His wedding to Olivia, held in a lush botanical garden surrounded by true friends. Melissa had officiated, joking through tears about their nerdy merger finally going public. The reception was a far cry from anything high society. It was a gathering of minds, not egos, filled with thoughtful conversations about science and innovation. One photograph stood out among the rest, the first ever graduation ceremony of the Logitech Foundation. 20 students from single-parent households, proudly donning caps and gowns, each one a testament to perseverance. That number had since grown tenfold, with the program now serving over 200 students each year, future leaders grounded in hard work and compassion. Glenwyn, now the global director of operations, had transformed TransGlobal's outdated infrastructure into a streamlined, efficient powerhouse. He took great pride in utilizing systems that Robert had once dismissed as overcomplicated. Occasionally, Derek would hear news of his former family, and each update reinforced the wisdom of the path he had chosen. Nora's decline had been particularly stark. After her time as a receptionist, she cycled through increasingly unremarkable jobs. Her entitled mindset and lack of practical skills made it impossible for her to hold down any meaningful position. Her last known job was as a part-time filing clerk at the law firm that had handled her divorce from Robert. As for Robert Williams, his fall from grace had been as dramatic as it was inevitable. The SEC investigation unraveled a web of financial deceit. Not even his Ivy League credentials could shield him. He served a 3-year sentence in minimum security prison, emerging broke, alone, and humbled. These days, he taught basic business at a community college, his personal downfall now part of his lecture content. The twins had dealt with their respective losses in different ways. Elizabeth, after years of working retail, returned to school and earned a teaching degree. She now worked with underprivileged children, her perspective forever changed by her own struggles. She had become someone who valued inner strength far more than external wealth. Letitia's journey had been more tumultuous. Desperate to maintain her influencer persona, she made a series of poor decisions, including marrying a bankrupt aging developer in a misguided attempt at securing stability. Her real crash came in the form of a viral meltdown, caught on camera as she berated a barista over a latte. The incident ended her influencer career for good, forcing her offline and into deep reflection. Catherine occasionally tried to reach out, but only when she needed a favor, a contact, or an introduction. None of her messages were ever returned. None of the holiday cards were ever opened. Each one returned untouched. The sister who once exchanged family ties for the allure of status seemed frozen in another era, unchanged, unrepentant. Marcus Wheeler's career never truly recovered after TransGlobal's collapse. Quietly, he sought positions at Logitech, but his overtures were met with polite but resolute rejection. The oceanfront house, where Nora's betrayal had taken root, was eventually sold off to manage the mounting bills. Now, Marcus occupied a mid-level position at a small logistics company, the dream of reaching the executive suite buried along with the wreckage of his friendship with Derek. Meanwhile, Melissa had become a cornerstone of Logitech's continued rise. Her brilliant coding and unapologetic candor drove the company toward bold, groundbreaking innovation. Though frequently courted by major tech firms in Silicon Valley, she turned them all down, believing it was more meaningful to build lasting value than to chase fleeting digital fame. Her work with Olivia transformed how enterprise software was designed, creating user interfaces so seamless they redefined industry standards. Olivia, for her part, earned international praise for her research on workplace culture and team synergy. The Blake model, a flexible organizational structure named after her, was now part of the curriculum at top-tier business schools, including, somewhat ironically, Harvard Business School, where Robert had once flaunted his MBA with pride. Olivia now divided her time between steering Logitech's strategic vision and mentoring future business leaders, teaching that real achievement comes from elevating others rather than pushing past them. Her relationship with Derek had only deepened over the years, a testament to the fact that success and fulfillment could grow from a partnership grounded in mutual respect and shared purpose. They traveled often, not to impress or curate online envy like Nora once had, but to engage directly with communities supported by their foundation and to uncover new ways to grow their philanthropic reach. The Logitech Foundation had become the most significant chapter in their legacy, impacting lives far beyond the confines of corporate success. Every year, they received letters from scholarship recipients, stories of startups launched, discoveries made, and communities uplifted. These heartfelt testimonials brought more satisfaction than revenge ever could. Then one morning, as Derek reviewed the newest round of scholarship applications, he paused at a name he recognized. Ava, Letitia's daughter, was now growing up with a single mother who worked long shifts as a waitress. The application was raw and sincere, outlining their hardships while demonstrating a clear grasp of perseverance and the value of dedication. After careful consideration, Derek approved the scholarship, not as an act of forgiveness or sentiment, but because her story embodied the Foundation's mission, to support those who understand the true price of success. Ava would never know that her grandfather had quietly ensured she had a chance, not a gift, but a real opportunity to earn something better. The most surprising chapter unfolded when Harvard Business School invited Derek to speak on ethical leadership. Standing before students in the same lecture hall where Robert had once absorbed superficial lessons in ambition, Derek offered something richer, the idea that greatness is rooted in integrity, resilience, and the ability to turn personal failure into something meaningful. Ultimately, Derek's greatest triumph wasn't in watching his betrayers fall, but in witnessing something extraordinary rise from the ashes. Logitech, the Foundation, his life with Olivia, all stood as living proof that genuine success is built with care, not seized by force. The wheel of justice had made its slow, deliberate turn, offering truths about morality and consequence that no wealth could ever buy. And in the quiet pauses between their many endeavors, Derek and Olivia sometimes reflected on the strange beauty of it all, how ruin had given birth to renewal, and how the truest form of revenge wasn't retaliation, but a life lived with purpose, compassion, and unwavering conviction. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.